Afternoon, everyone. It is 12:02 p.m. and I'm going to call to order the Security and Passenger Safety Community Advisory Group of October 17th at 12 p.m. Jan, could you do our roll call, please? Or Dahlia, sorry.
Ariana Federico Madragon. Here. Robbie Ray Salas is absent. Emma Rodriguez is absent. Janelle Chitok is absent. John Brady.
Here.
Karen Howard is absent. Catherine Durant is absent. Manu Agni is absent. Matthew Wechter is absent. Megan Welsh. Here. Michelle Carlson. Can you please speak into the mic? Here. Thank you. Michelle Krug. Here. Thank you. Rosina Lizaraga is absent. Roderick Colvin is absent. Todd Temple is absent. V. Turner.
Very much here.
Chair, we do not have a quorum.
All right, well, we will move on to public comments. Do we have any public comments today?
We do not have any.
All right, we will forego the approval of the minutes as we do not have a quorum and move on to discussion item number 4 unless there are any comments from the committee beforehand. All right.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Al Styler. I'm the Director of Transit Security and Passenger Safety at MTS. With me today is Deputy Director Tim Curran. Thank you for the opportunity to give this presentation. We will be giving you our 2022 annual report, and I will turn it over to Tim to get us started.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to present our 2022 annual report. Thank you. Start with our introduction. The way we're your code compliance inspectors, your passenger safety department is designed is we have public officers here, code compliance inspectors. They're public officers per 836.5 of the California Penal Code. But basically they have powers of arrest, and they also have the authority to issue citations. You'll see they highly visible uniform presence. They're the ones in the day glow there, the bright colors. We currently have 62 inspectors and 15 field supervisors. We're also supplemented by contracted security officers provided by Intercon Security Services. And basically they are security guards, and they have the authority to make a private person's arrest. That means an offense occurred in their presence. And that falls under section 837 of the Penal Code. They also have a high visible uniform presence. They're the ones in the blue. Currently, we have 206 contracted security officers. 96 of those are armed positions. And here's our service area maps. You can see we go all the way, the blue line from San Ysidro, all the way up north to the University Town Center. And from the east, from Santee, all the way into the metro area of San Diego. So let's go into part 1 crimes. So part 1 crimes are basically, these are your felony crimes that are reported to us. And this is a report of what's happened on the trolley in from year 21 to 22 in the comparison there. You'll notice that we had a 53% increase from 2021 to 2022 of reported crimes on the trolley. Most of this can probably be, in response to COVID. 2021, we were all pretty much in lockdown. A lot of people were working from home. Not a lot of people were commuting to their jobs. 2022, those restrictions lifted significantly, and you can see the ridership increased dramatically. So that's probably the biggest cause of that increase. And a part 2 crimes, very similar. Part 2 crimes are your misdemeanor crimes that are reported. Your drunkenness, drug abuse, misdemeanor level assaults, vandalism, and misdemeanor sex offenses. And you'll see a pretty significant increase, again, 105% increase from 21 to 22. And again, our ridership just increased so much because the pandemic restrictions were lifted. And then part one crimes on bus reported crimes, significantly lower. We get much fewer crimes reported from the bus. Went up about 15% from 2021 to 2022. And then our part two crimes on bus, again, those are our lower level misdemeanor crimes. They went up quite a bit actually, from about 87% from 21 to 22. Assaults. In 2022, MTS responded to 591 assaults as compared to 321 in 2021. And this includes both part one and part two, so misdemeanor and felony level assaults. And this was both on the trolley and on the bus. 162 of those assaults were on MTS employees, and that includes our security officers, our code compliance inspectors, could be a train operator or a bus driver. That's about an 84% increase from 21 to 22. And of significance, 27% of those were on employees of MTS. Non-compliant arrests. We saw a pretty significant increase in non-compliant arrests in 2022 as well. And a non-compliant arrest could be, it's refusal to follow instructions. It could be as simple as someone possessing an alcoholic beverage on a train and they won't step off the train, or they won't surrender their bottle of beer or whatever they might have. But it went up quite a bit, over 56%. On to fair inspections and citations. Obviously in 2022, we had far greater increase in fair inspections, about 13% increase. However, our citations went down about 19%. A lot of that could be attributed to the fare diversion program, giving people the opportunity to step off and purchase a fare before issuing them a citation. The top three things we issue citations for are fare evasion, the failure to comply, and smoking. And that includes, smoking in the trains, the buses, or in the stations. And a lot of that we've seen lately too is smoking fentanyl. We're getting that quite a bit. In July of 21, our code compliance inspector started to carry Narcan. And just from July 21 to the end of the year in 21, we used it 15 times. In 2022, we used it 40 times. And to date in 23, we've used it over 73 times. And we're probably seeing an increase. We're using it 3 or 4 times a week now. Encampment details. We have a code compliance inspector who works with a security guard and goes into the encampments that we find along MTS properties. So we do this to check on trespassing, illegal lodging, and other nuisance and sanitation concerns along our properties, along the right of way. In 2022, we did 189 camp details. We did 27 formal camp cleanups where we get a whole crew together and come out and clean them up. Our inspectors also carry, when they do these details, they carry materials for outreach, that information on how they can get assistance, a bed, help with health and human services, that sort of thing. So they contacted over 1,500 people for outreach services in 2022. And finally, we removed over 51,000 pounds of trash and debris out of those camps over the year. Our ridership details, these are details consisting of code compliance inspectors and our security, and they're designed in response to customer complaints about recurring issues such as lewdness, and that could be indecent exposure, public urination, that sort of thing. Could be smoking, drug activity, or loitering. They're also designed to educate our riders on how to use the Ride Assured program. If they see something, how they can text the number in, or how they can call it in. It's also how to use our Pronto system, how to properly validate their Pronto card. What this detail does too, our rider experiences details, it enables us to help with those victimless crimes, the drunkenness, those sorts of things. And maybe those incidents occur in front of us, so then we can take an action on it, either remove that problem or address it with a citation or whatever it's called for. Between 2022 and 23, we've done over 40 details of these ridership experience details. We've given 542 warnings for various offenses. over 400 citations for fare violations, and 122 other violations. We also validated over 1,700 Pronto cards. And what that means is that the rider would have a Pronto card with value on it, but they didn't tap. So we would validate their card for them, but they're supposed to tap before they get on the train or the bus. That amounts to about 30% of the people who have that Pronto card with value on it aren't tapping, aren't validating their card. We also had over 1,200 patron assists,
What was that?
about 30%,
30% have not validated.
correct. Yet they have value on the card. And also significance, we have what's called over 1,600 trained step-ons. And what those are is when the train pulls into the station, if our inspectors or our security guards are there, they'll step on the train, let our patrons see them. They'll check the car while it's in the station, make sure that everything is going good, everything's okay, and then they'll step off. And it really gives our patrons, I think, a sense of security. And we did that over 1,600 times. We also have our bus enforcement support team, known as the BEST team. 2023 year to date, we've had over 380 calls for service. They've met over 1,400 buses at various stops. And again, they'll step on the bus when it pulls into the stop, make sure everything's okay, make contact with the driver, and step back off. They've inspected over 1,100 bus stops. And our BEST team, they carry outreach information as well. So they'll hand it out when they need it, because they do come in contact with a lot of people who are experiencing homelessness. And they've over 74 people have accepted that outreach information. Now, on the other side of that, 143 refused to accept the information, but we still carry it, we still offer it, and we're not going to stop doing that. As for our outreach efforts, continuing on that, in 2023 year to date, over 1,700 people have been encountered with our outreach efforts. And what our efforts are, we have a code compliance inspector full-time assigned to outreach efforts. And she works closely with Health and Human Services for the county, as well as the Downtown San Diego Partnership. 37 of those people have accepted shelter. 72 people have been approved for shelter, but there were no beds available for them. And it might be an upper bunk issue that's only available. It might be a medical issue they have, so they can't take that particular bed. It could be a faith-based organization that the individual's not comfortable heading into. Or it could be as simple as they have a pet, and that wherever that bed is, they won't take the pet. 8 of our contacts over the year have utilized the family reunification program, and 46 have been assisted with Health and Human Services benefit information through the county. So what's new for 2023 is this was just approved by the board last month, is a department expansion for our department. We're going to add 34 additional code compliance inspectors. We're going to add 6 more code compliance supervisors for the field, 5 code compliance dispatchers, and we're also opening 4 new satellite offices. We have one downstairs that just opened up on the first floor here at 12th and Imperial. We call it Suite 120, where the CCIs and security guards are working right out of that building. They can walk right up to 12th and Imperial. We have one opened up at San Ysidro now.
We don't really call it Suite 120, do we?
I'm sorry?
Did we call it Suite 120?
We have been advised by council that we should call it Suite 120.
Instead of what it was, which was a check cashing.
We
place.
refer to it as check cashing place. So unless you ever cash a check there, you probably wouldn't recognize that. Suite 120 sounds really cool too. In addition to that, we also have an office that we opened up in San Ysidro, and we are in the process of putting 2 portable office trailers, one at Palomar and one at the El Cajon station. So some of the good things about working at those 2 is they're going to increase our visibility on those outlying stations, but it's also going to decrease the response time, so our folks can respond from those locations a lot easier to offer assistance and help where needed. Rail Safety Week. Last month we had Rail Safety Week, September 18th through the 22nd. And what that is, that's an opportunity for us to go out to various stations and set up our little pop-up tents, and we can offer information on how to ride safely, how to use the system better. And so last month, we did one on the Monday at Old Town. On Tuesday, we set up at the Palomar Transit Center. On Wednesday, we did a presentation at the San Ysidro High School, was very well received. We set up a booth at lunchtime, and they also did a presentation on how to use the system safely. On Thursday, they were set up at Euclid Station, and on Friday, they set up at the Iris Transit Center. Very, very well received, though. It's really fun.
You don't have like a runaway train exercise like that movie. Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah, good. That's good.
And I'll turn it over to Al to talk about our special enforcement details.
So prior to COVID, the security department would pretty much on a weekly basis conduct what were called special enforcement details throughout our system. Their purpose was to educate riders about our fare structure, how to purchase a ticket, what an inspection would be like. It also provided us with a lot of information on evasion rates and what was going on in our system. Again, it was suspended for COVID in 2020. And last month on September 20th, at the request of our East County board members, we conducted our first special enforcement detail. The detail was conducted at the El Cajon Transit Center in partnership with the El Cajon Police Department and their outreach service team that they had available. During the time we were there, which was about 3.5 hours from 4 p.m. till about 7:30 p.m., we met 16 trolleys that were stopped and inspected. Now, at a special enforcement detail, what happens is we have enough personnel there that when a train pulls in, the train will stop. Rail operations will delay the train for about 2 minutes. It gives us time to get on board that train and inspect every person on that train. This way, we have 100% inspection, and we get 100% information on what's happening in the car. So we contacted 933 customers. 354 of them were in violation. 55 had no fare and refused to purchase a fare. 123 purchased fares after contact, and 176 did not validate their Pronto card. What this led to is we determined that our evasion rate based on the violations was about 34.7% violation. Also, we had 2 juvenile.
34 to 37%.
34.7% violations. We also recovered 2 unattended juveniles that were joyriding on our train and reunited with their mom. El Cajon PD made 3 arrests, and we had 6 people that accepted some kind of outreach or drug rehabilitation service information. We conducted our second special enforcement outreach detail at the Maya Trolley Station 2 weeks later. We worked with La Mesa Police Department and their outreach service team. Here and it was about the same time period, 4 p.m. to about 7:30 p.m. We were able to stop 37 trolleys were stopped and inspected. We contacted about 1,100 patrons. 375 were in violation. 62 had no fare and refused to purchase and were issued citations. 113 were given the opportunity to purchase their fares after contact. And we had 200 that had funds on their Pronto card but didn't validate. So that meant that MTS wasn't getting those funds. Through this information, we were able to determine that our evasion rate was 34.1% at this detail. We also had 2 arrests made by local law enforcement agencies at this detail. We have details planned coming up. We're going to be doing one in Santee and at Lemon Grove.
Just a quick question, the
Sure.
arrests. Are there law enforcement that are engaging beyond the security staff, or what's the?
What'll happen with the, if we have somebody that won't give us identification, or someone that is, fighting, resisting, not cooperating, then police will come in and assist us. Here's some photographs. You can see our CCIs, assisting patrons with buying their fares, giving them directions on the platforms, and one picture with them working with the outreach team to offer some services. This is another new initiative that we've been invited to participate in, and this moved quickly through the county. It just became actually effective. I believe this week is when it's going into effect. But it started in, I believe, Riverside. It started in Riverside County. Originally, it was for motor vehicles, for drivers of motor vehicles. If somebody had a cognitive or medical disability, they could carry this blue envelope. And in the envelope, they would have their credentials, driver's license, insurance card, registration. And on the envelope, it would give the driver, how they should behave when they're approached by a police officer. But it would also have specific information for the police officer about what kind of condition this person may have. And it will tell the officer this person might be terrified by loud noises, doesn't like when somebody stands close to him. Person could be diabetic and may appear to be intoxicated, but it could be a medical issue. So this way, the officer will know before really getting into any kind of interaction, what kind of situation he's dealing with. This is a sample of the envelope and also some samples of what the individual participating in the program can use to identify themselves. They have wristbands, there's lanyards. In motor vehicles, they actually have sleeves that go over the seatbelt that'll blue, and that'll let the officer know, hey, do you have an envelope for me? Is there something that I need to be reading? This program is 100% voluntary, and there's no need to register. There's no records kept on it. It's just the individual wants to pick up the information, they can get it, and they can start participating in the program. We actually just had some of these materials at our transit store downstairs. So if any of our customers want to participate in this program, they can pick up that information, and we'll work with our marketing team to make sure that we can make that available for customers. Here's just a few of the community partners that are involved in this. This was initiated by the San Diego Sheriff's Department, and it was lightning fast on how quick they got this organized and got it together. Last month, I attended a county supervisors meeting where it was approved the program. And that's it for our presentation. If you have any questions, comments, we'd be happy to handle them.
I'll open it up to, yes, go ahead, Victoria.
Can you hear me?
First off, do we have any public comment on this?
We do not.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Victoria.
Thank you. All right, on slide 16, outreach efforts, what was the name of the individual MTS liaison? The lady?
Yeah, that's Cynthia Rogers.
Rogers. Okay. Thank you. I want to say to you personally, thanks for answering the phone every time I call.
Of course.
Okay. My second question is, with respect to the encampments, do we have statistics on how quickly MTS responds to complaints about encampments? As you know, that's one of my hot buttons.
We don't really have statistics on how quickly. In some instances, it involves a coordinated effort, not just our team going there. So at times it'll be go inspect the area, see what resources are needed, returning and find out and coordinate that operation and then get it done.
Yeah, and Al McKenzie is wonderful at doing that. My concern, and I've seen this firsthand, as you know, numerous times, is Al McKenzie and his team come out, when they can, and then, but it takes after that months before you guys are able to get out there and do cleanup. And since the trolley seems to be a corridor of crime, bringing people in, when we have encampments within a period of weeks, the encampments grow, the drugs and alcohol grow exponentially. So when it takes months to get a response, that's enormously frustrating for the community members. So I'd like to ask that in future statistics that you guys track how long it takes to respond to encampment issues, so that can be dealt with. If you need, I don't know, more funding, that's not my job to get you funding, but it's somebody's job here to get you funding for that. If you track it, it's more likely to get funding, so you can have a faster response rate and keep our community safer. And I know you're doing your best you can with the number of resources that you have, but allowing that amount of drugs and alcohol in local communities for months at a time is enormously frustrating for all the community members, not to mention the crime.
If I may, I don't think it's fair to characterize the trolley as a corridor for bringing crime to places. I don't think that it is anymore. In fact, Sandag did a study to look at crime along the trolley line versus in the communities that are in the
Mhm.
vicinity. And it's less likely to have crime on board the trolley. And the other thing is that you can't very well say that every encampment has been brought there by the trolley. I just don't think that's a fair characterization.
No, the encampments that I've been dealing with, they're actually on trolley property adjacent to the trolley. This is some of the personal issues that I've had, and that's where they're coming at. And I see them, they're not riding on the trolley, they're using the trolley tracks to walk up and down and evade the regular area. So if there's a Sandag, a study about that, I'd love to see it, but I can tell you firsthand what I personally observed. I can see the homeless people coming up and down, physically walking on the trolley. And it disturbs us because they're endangering their own personal lives. I don't want, even if they're in crime, I don't want them dead, but it's really upsetting.
I don't have any comment. Is there a particular area that you're focused on? Just
Well,
out of
this
curiosity?
particular one I've been dealing with is in La Mesa, but it's my understanding it's in many other places as well. But this I know personally, I can tell you, one person's experience isn't everything, but I do bring a representation of the community in. And so that's why I'm making an effort to explain exactly what I personally have seen and been involved with for 6+ months. I see Michelle had a question.
Microphone.
I just wondered in terms of the encampments, because I also don't feel that it's because of the trolley, but it is, I can speak within the city of San Diego, not specifically La Mesa, because I know it better, but I know as people are being moved out of other areas, they're obviously seeking places that are safe, and I have not personally found them to be specifically bringing in drugs. It's moms with kids. It's not, so I think that we need to balance that with the humane treatment that people don't have a place to live. And and I know that the most rapid group of people becoming homeless are seniors right now. And my heart just goes out because they're not having a place to live. It's not because they want to be hanging out on the trolley tracks. That's all.
And in my observation, MTS has been wonderful about providing resources. Whenever they do an encampment cleanup, they have multiple people from multiple organizations offering multiple resources. So they're not just saying, buzz off, get out. They're saying, look, what can we do to help you? Here's help in getting ID cards and placement into housing, get on housing waiting lists, helping with their pets, et cetera, et cetera. So MTS is not the bad guy here at all. There's an overwhelming stuff, but it's incontrovertible in my personal observation that the encampments that I've personally seen do have drugs there. And I haven't seen any children in these particular ones. Not that it's replicated across the board. Your experience is different than mine.
Are there other comments on this item or question? Yes.
So I was wondering about the slide actually on the screen. I rode the trolley down this morning, and I can tell you I did not see any ride assured sign on the trolley. It was only one, of course, trolley. So the only thing I saw was a sign. It was about this long by about this wide, and it did have some numbers. There was no way I could read it. So my concern is just that it's probably not, it's not visible enough for people to see. Because I know we talked about that last time, and I think visibility is a key.
Yes.
And we're looking to rebrand our Ride Assured program. We've had some technological issues that have made it a little bit difficult for us, but we're trying to make it like a one number text that you can call, so it's not separate phone and text. And once we get that done, we'll be able to really highlight it a little bit better on our system.
And the other thing is, could you, you know, the little statements that they put, on the trolley, like, you know, this is a trolley, you know, headed for such and such place. At the end of that, could you put, you know, if you're having any trouble, you can text this number so that people who, have disabilities also have that information.
Yeah, so after the focus groups,
Yeah.
we learned that hardly anybody knows about the Ride Assured program.
Right,
So maybe we're just being too subtle when you say Ride Assured.
yeah,
Maybe it should be need help.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
You know, and I'm Mark Olson's here with our marketing department, and they are working on better
Okay.
materials to convey that.
So how big would you like the sign that would be visible for you?
Probably I don't know,
So-
like a,
Right now, they're 12 by about 6. So how much?
probably a couple 2 feet by, well, I don't know. But you know, like those signs on the bus, probably that size.
And we do have those on the rail. It
Yeah.
just may not have been in the card.
Oh, yeah, probably not. I just, it was so big for me because after last time I specifically looked for it, because I was like, I am gonna look for this number. Just a thought.
Michelle Krug, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add around the accessibility. I appreciate you bringing up about the visual. I think anytime we're making something accessible visually, which I want us to do, and I want us to have it as bold and as large as possible. Also, a tiny thing, don't assume people can text. I definitely want a phone number because I can't read a text. So to text is not going to help me in communication.
And there is a phone.
Right, but I heard them say that maybe it would just be a one text.
No, it'll be the same number, just like with anybody with their private phone. The number is the same whether you're phoning in or you're
Or
texting
texting.
Two numbers.
currently, but we're working on a
Making it a
technological
one.
change to make it a one.
And that makes sense. But, and I love the idea that Michelle mentioned about having, the audio. If that can just be in every possible place. The tiny thing, I love the idea that you said, Sharon, about making it like need help, like just very clear. The only thing is the need help would be so expensive about, I got off over here and how come I didn't, you know what I mean? Like, but if we're specifically saying, do you need, I don't know, just wording it so that it's clear that it's like emergency help or the security help or something like that.
Any other comments on this particular section or anything on the,
I also wanna-
Adriana?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also want to comment on I wanted to ask if folks would be able to send text messages or call like in different languages. Like, does MTS have capacity to do that?
We have what's available. There's a language line available that we could call in to get a translation if need be, but the texting, it would depend on who would be on our system at the time, if they could interpret it.
Yeah.
But we have,
Yeah.
we have a very diverse workforce. So if we got a message, we have an officer that can speak Tongan, you know? So if somebody sent a message that we weren't able to read, we could reach out to somebody on our team and try to find out what the message was.
Yeah.
Google
Sure.
Translate,
That
you
could
know,
be automated.
you could put Google Translate, you can copy the
Yeah.
message into Google and translate it.
I would think that, also like having the marketing pieces in different languages would be important. For the YOP program, we try to provide the resources in many languages. So that includes like Vietnamese, Spanish, Farsi, Arabic. Because we know that certain communities, like you have like a large number of folks either speaking that language. So I think that would be helpful for us. I work a lot with like the Latino community that are transit riders, and a lot of them, their first language is Spanish. and I kind of walked them through the ride assured. But I also wasn't sure if there was like a response like that was available to them in Spanish. There's also been a couple, like I do know that like within the last month, there have been folks that have been coming through like immigration that have been dropped off at the trolley. So I think, the first experience with riding transportation might be a little bit difficult for them. So I think it could be helpful to have like some sort of resource. And I think going back to how like the program or the messaging could be used, sometimes folks, at least for me, like sometimes I don't even know what a program works for, how it could be used. We see this like with like, oh, how would you know when to go to urgent care or to the emergency room? And so you have now like, um, you know, companies kind of describe more like, when you're experiencing this, you go to urgent care, and then when you're experiencing that, to the emergency. So kind of maybe having like explanations of like when to call this number, like if you're seeing issues about safety, call or text this number. When you're seeing issues around like, what would you say, like drug activity or loitering, call this number. Kind of like more of those, like, how do you provide more other explanations of how to utilize this resource? And I think we can take away from folks, like calling for help because they had an issue with their Pronto Pass. Does that make sense? Because I'm
Good
kind of
point.
seeing like some expressions. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Maybe there's a question for Mark or a comment for Mark. But yeah, those were my comments. I also did want to go back to the crimes, the numbers. 'Cause we do see an increase, but do these numbers get like viewed out like in a big picture of like how many people are riding throughout the year? Because we see like 362, like that's a lot. But I think it's also telling of like how many people are riding transportation throughout the year, to kind of have like a zoom out interpretation of what that looks like. And I'm also wondering too, like if these crimes that were reported, they were reported through your officers or if they were reported through like the lines that were used to call for help.
So we know we have about 3 million rides a month is what we get. So
Wow.
we understand we get that. As far as how crimes are reported, it could be reported by anonymously through Ride Assured. It could be somebody at the station saying, "Hey, I was just, assaulted." It could be our team could be watching a camera and see it happening. It could be reported by one of our employees. So there's a lot of ways that crimes get reported. We keep stats of everything that's reported to us, but sometimes there'll be a victim of a crime that doesn't want to make the report. So if PD doesn't come out, they might not count it. So in the big picture of city crime or county crime or state crime, that's a stat that won't be counted because the victim didn't stick around to make a
Yeah.
report. But we count it anyway because we want to know what's happening. We want to be accountable for everything that happens on our system.
And just to clarify,
yeah.
the 3 million is trolley ridership. That
Trolley,
doesn't count bus. But these numbers do count bus,
And trolley.
correct?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well, these are just trolley right here. There's
Yeah.
another slide.
Oh, yeah, these don't say trolley, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's important to just share, like, have for folks to have an idea of like how many people are riding transportation. Because, again, going back to your comment, Sharon, like I wouldn't want folks to think that, public transit is like kind of attracting any sort of crime. Like crime happens everywhere. So I appreciate that you are reporting on like the issues and how you're supporting. I think another question that I did have had to do with your code compliance officer that I think you had shared that they work on, you have an officer that works on like the outreach efforts with the county.
Cynthia Rogers. She works closely, she works with the county office here, but she works very closely with the downtown San Diego partnership.
Um, I'm wondering, like, if you could share a little bit more about some of the challenges that your officer may have, like when it comes to like housing issues or issues with the county. Some of us work with, at least for my organization, we work with a lot of with the offices. So, there's opportunity to like, support any advocacy efforts that you may need or just continue to uplift any issues, because I think that's important. One officer can't do it all, but I do think that, every person that they've been able to help and support is very valuable. And I also do appreciate that you have the, naloxone available for your officers, because it's, overdoses, you can save a lot of people with naloxone. Can you share a little bit about the challenges that they've had?
I couldn't speak for Cynthia. I know just emotionally, it's a difficult job for her.
Yeah,
Emotionally, she's out every day seeing people at their worst. We always speak with her just about the end of every tour. Are you okay? Do you need a break from this? Do you need a reassignment? So challenges, yeah, we can't be everywhere. It's her and a team from Downtown Partnership. We have limited supplies. It's frustrating when you get somebody after speaking to them for months that they finally say, I want to take a bed, and then a bed might not be available for them. So it's the challenges. And another challenge is, we don't have any case management ability here. So there's no way of knowing if Al made it to the doctor's appointment he was supposed to get to. Did he make it to his counseling session? Did he get the prescription filled that he needed to get filled? There's a lot of challenges with this, and she does her best every day. She does
Yeah.
her best every day. It's possible that at a future meeting, we could have her here. I'm sure she'd be happy to talk about,
Yes,
what she
please.
has to face.
yeah. And I
That would be
think it's
great.
important to share that back with, elected officials that sit on the MTS board, because they're representatives too of like the county of San Diego and the city of San Diego and other cities throughout the county. My last question, has to do with the satellite offices. If I'm guessing it would change, response time, like throughout the system. Do you know if that would change, like of how officers respond now that you're having like more offices open up?
Yeah, so right now, and this was especially noticeable when COVID was on, there was no places for our guys to go take a break, to go have a meal. So everybody would come back here to our office. Now with these satellite offices, they can just take their break right there and right back on the system. There is no delay in getting back and forth to walk back to a yard. We're also, and this is a bit out, but there's a possibility about having some space in Lemon Grove, and we could make that an actual reporting station, where we could have officers actually report to there and not even come to this office at all. So it just helps us be on the system more, be more visible, and be able to get the problems quicker.
Thanks, Ariana. Any other, Megan? Megan?
Yeah, just a couple quick questions. Thank you so much for this presentation. And I just want to express my gratitude to Al and Tim and your team. Every time I hear one of these presentations, y'all are doing new and innovative things to try to make the rider experience better and safer for everyone. So thank you for all your hard work. Kind of building off of one of the questions that Ariana asked about crime that we have on this slide here. As we know, 2020 and 2021 and arguably 2022 were affected by the pandemic, right? I'm sure maybe internally you've compared some of your 2022 crime statistics to 2019, the last time the world was quote unquote normal. And I'm curious, from your perspective, would there be any value in comparing the 2019 numbers to 2022, or have things changed? So
The world is just,
yeah,
it's a different world than it was 3 years ago, and there's so many more issues that society is facing, that people are having to deal with. To try to compare what happened pre-pandemic to what's happening now would be apples to oranges.
okay, thank you. One other question, I was really interested to see the encampment cleanup work and your report about that. 51,000 pounds of trash sounds like a lot. Who collected that trash? It wasn't MTS, was it?
No, no, Al,
Well, it's a combination. So,
Okay.
for instance, in the San Diego River,
Yeah.
we coordinate with our other agencies that own property in the river. We're under an order from the Stormwater Resources Agency to make sure that we keep it clean. And then we work with the San Diego River Foundation, who helps alert us when there's, an encampment that's been set up. And then we have to work frequently because there are islands in the river that are only accessible by boat. We have to work with the lifeguards to coordinate them bringing us out there so we can get the stuff. And then we have a contract with is it not
Urban
Urban
Corps.
Corps to help us clean up encampments. And so some of the work gets done internally by our own facility staff, but most of it, I think, gets done through this contract with Urban Corps.
And I have to say, they do a great job. Once they clean up, it's really clean. It's like devastated, war-torn before and after you guys come out. It's almost pristine. I could go out and plant right after that. I have two more things, if that's all right. Do I have time? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, just so I'm actually gonna just apologize right now. I seem to be passing a kidney stone, which is why Kaiser's trying me to. Kaiser's trying to expedite a CT, which is why I went outside. But somebody, Stacy, had actually gone through the PowerPoint with me previously yesterday. So my questions were related to the PowerPoint, and I apologize if you did fix this in the meantime, Al, because I had mentioned it to her to kind of give you a heads up that are there clarifications about the differences on the crime statistics, the type 1 crimes, which are the like larceny and robbery,
Felony.
and those just are not things I'm exactly like familiar with what's the difference between them. So I didn't, and moving forward, if we could get some clarifying differences of what that looks like. And then another one specifically, I was interested in, I know it's pretty low, but the sexual assaults, I didn't know if that meant somebody exposing themselves or if it meant somebody harassing somebody. And I just wondered if you could expand on those two.
Yeah, well, the sex offenses, that's lewdness, behavior, could be a contact. We can probably break that out a little bit more next time we do a presentation. The difference between a larceny and a robbery is there force or a threat of force is being used when taking the property.
And there were like two others that are very close to robbery. I don't know if someone can see it, but just like theft and burglary. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The definitions just might be helpful. That's all.
Sure.
These are kind of, to clarify, these are standard crime categories that are required for outside reporting, right?
There are standard categories, but
Yeah.
again, to my point, we're not a police department. We don't have an investigative arm. So what we might perceive to be a robbery or an assault, we don't have access to witnesses all the time. We don't have access to the victims all the time. So we put it as to what we see at that moment. Police may come and do an investigation. They might find other elements to it that changes the crime, which we won't be notified about. But this is what we see, and this is the best way we can count it.
No, I have, what? John? I had the follow-up question. I'm sorry. So for next time, particularly for the trolley statistics, is it possible to break them out by trolley line? And I'll tell you specifically why I'm asking. When I talk to seniors on the trolley, they would like to know what's the safer part of the day to ride any particular trolley, because sometimes they have options to like get an Uber if they feel that they're going to be assaulted late at night. So is it possible to get statistics like on the blue line as opposed to the orange line, that the end in El Cajon? Are there more robberies in El Cajon than there are in Santee? Is it possible to get any of
Yes, it
those
is.
statistics?
Yes, it is. Last year, we hired a crime analyst
Ooh.
who has been doing a great job of maintaining a database and putting it into some kind of visual analytics so we can make data-driven decisions. So that'll be more helpful for us going forward.
Could we get a copy of that next time, make a presentation to this group?
Sure.
That would be super. And then maybe we could share it in some fashion with the seniors who would like to use that data to make decisions about their own safety and use of the trolleys. That'd be great. Thanks.
Sorry about that. My voice is so big, I just didn't even notice the microphone was off. So I just had a couple of things. I had the same concern regarding the statistics year over year, and I get that we're just in a different time frame, so we really can't look at it. So do we have an internal cost on what we think encampment cleanups are costing MTS?
Guess we could put something together, yeah.
I would, yeah, I would, if we could get that and maybe
Just close to
any,
Rolando.
We did it once, for an annual report, to the board. You know, it's not $250,000.
yeah,
You
no,
know,
I,
It's not that.
well, the reason is it's so we don't, while we know where every penny goes on homelessness, we do not understand what it costs to do enforcement system wide, and not only here, but outside of this agency. And I would like to get that number if I could, for at least for this agency, if you have it available. It doesn't have to be perfect. It could be a ballpark.
Yeah, we just have to figure out salaries. and,
Yeah.
You know, what our
If you
for
don't,
facilities
you know,
people.
if it's possible, and it's not too much work, it would be nice to have an understanding of what it costs your agency to do that. Just as at least I've got a reference point, because it's frustrating to not have that data set anywhere else, so.
Yeah, and
Alright.
may I make a comment
Yeah.
exactly on that point? I've been trying to work with the real estate manager, Sean Mott, and I've been suggesting in the area that's repeated encampment issues that perhaps we could put landscaping in there to prevent future encampments. And, oh, well, that's very expensive. And I said, well, on balance, how much does it cost to continually come back every 2, 3, 4 months to constantly clean this encampment as opposed to putting in landscaping? And so that's why having this information would be able to make a data-driven decision for MTS, decide what's less expensive in the short run and the long run. Speaking of which, if you could ask Sean to give me a call, he's supposed to be calling me back. I haven't heard from him. That would be really good.
And so, yeah, and so anyway, that would be one request that I have. I also would like to understand what our encampment clearing policy is during inclement weather. So, do we, when it's raining or shortly thereafter or before it's going to rain, do we consider the fact that asking an encampment to move wet or move prior to a rain event might be problematic?
We don't have a specific policy to it, but I can guarantee you that Alan McKenzie is very sensitive to the individuals
Okay.
that he encounters.
I asked this because during the leading into the hurricane event, we saw sweeps occurring in an area that I don't believe would be flooded, but were secure and dry.
Yeah.
And so, and I know that we were trying to get most people out. That we didn't know it was going to be quite as mild as it was, thankfully, because we were able to save lives that were at risk. So, but thank you. When we have an outreach officer or outreach person from PATH, do they have resources system-wide, or if they identify somebody, are they really relying on the resources of the city of San Diego for alternatives for shelter or treatment? How does that work?
We don't always have anybody from PATH here. We
Oh.
work with the downtown partnership.
Oh, I'm sorry, the downtown partnership, excuse me,
Yeah.
I was incorrect, but are they, I guess the question is to the city's concerns about we host, I guess, effectively 50% of the homeless population, but we have almost 80% of the resources for homeless people in the city of San Diego. And there's been, obviously the mayor's concern and others about where do we transport people if they're not within the city of San Diego and we encounter them and they accept services?
I really don't know the answer to your question. you
Okay.
know. We don't have the ability, we don't have the ability to transport. We're not entitled to a lot of information
Right.
because we don't have, we're trying to get Cynthia the training so she can look into the case management system, but right now we don't have that. So
Oh, okay. Oh,
we're working
but
with the,
Cynthia is with, sorry, is she an employee? of-
she's one of our CCIs.
I see. Got it. All right. Okay. So currently you don't have access to the HMIS.
No, we just, 3 weeks ago, met with members from the regional task force who sent her some links that she can get the training, start taking the training, so she will have access
Okay,
to the system.
that would be important.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the fare violation rate. I actually had a sidebar quickly with Sharon. I think it's appropriate to assess a penalty if we identify someone who has not tapped their Pronto card and has money, or in general, at this point, I'm concerned that and I know this is outside our purview, but we may be training people that it's easy just to leave the Pronto card in your pocket, have it loaded and take a roll of the dice, right? And perhaps there needs to be, a $10 penalty added to that if you want to pay your way out of it. Something to that effect. So I just want to put that on record. Your outreach statistics, there's really nothing unique there, but the evasion rate is really problematic. Blue envelope, I'm glad the transit system is on that. I think those are the questions that I had. It seems like there was several I think you cleared up a bunch of questions about whatever I can't even remember the name now, the security reporting system is on board.
Right assured.
Right, sure.
Ride Assure. Yeah, I think that looking into not only multiple language solutions for that, but it may actually help us feel more like an international city if we had multi-language announcements on the MTS as well. So because we are a destination for people from all over the world, I know we have a large population of people that come from Germany and other parts of the region, other parts of the world that come here, and may actually make us sound a little bit cooler to hear somebody say something in French every once in a while. So,
And we do have Klingon.
pardon?
Klingon every year.
Right.
Comic-Con Klingon is on the trolley.
Yep, there we go. Oh, I didn't know that. So they speak, I guess they speak Klingon on the trolley when Comic-Con's in town. So, and that's very useful for the Klingon population. So, with that, are there any other comments or other comments? Well, thank you for that report.
Michelle
Al.
has-
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Michelle.
Michelle, could you turn on your mic?
Thank you. This is not exactly from the report, as I said, that Stacy did go over with me, but the MTS access person is super sweet, who took me here today. I had spoken to several bus drivers, and they were sharing with me that there are at least 2 specific transit places that have been mentioned to me. I'm far from the expert in this, but where the bathrooms, we're back to bathrooms, where the bathrooms are locked, one of them being University and 40th with a 15 intersects, and the other one being San Ysidro, and I'm, really likely that there are others. But the people who do have the keys to them, and I want this to be, I'm not saying you should take this away, are the security. That security does have the key and access, especially when you have 10 locations, is my understanding, where you have well, maybe not 24/7, but during the hours of the ridership, you have somebody physically there. stationed there, they should have access to a bathroom. I'm strongly advocating that. But it also means that the bus drivers don't have a chance to use it. And so I'm just wondering about that. And, obviously our ideal would be that people have access, period, to the bathrooms, but at least the MTS, even if they're not direct employees, if they're TransDev, that I would love to see them be able to get that access. And tell me if I have misinformation.
Who would know that information?
I
would-
think it varies from place to place, right?
Yeah,
Where our officers have access to the
Right.
bathrooms that we assign to bus drivers
right.
and trolley operators.
Yeah, it's different throughout our system.
But these are only the security. So the 10 places you have security people, do I assume that there's a bathroom that they can use in each of those places since they're there for an 8-hour shift?
You mean when we have a stationary person at a station?
Yeah, unless I misunderstood when Stacy was reading to me, I said, that sounds to me that there are at least 10 locations, and she mentioned which ones they are, that there is always a security detail station. So yes, I want them to have bathrooms. I'm definitely not advocating otherwise, but I'm also saying that the bus drivers, I would think, would be able to have access, and the trolley drivers at those same bathroom locations, particularly the bus drivers. They seem to be the ones that are having the most challenges.
Yeah, and they're offered restrooms at a variety of locations. But if security has a restroom,
Yes.
they can make it available to the, but you don't have any restrooms other than the one down on the I-15. for the-
And San Ysidro.
Mhm.
Microphone.
If referring to center line, yeah, they use one of the businesses on either El Cajon Boulevard or
Okay.
University.
Yeah, there was some
There's
talk
an
about
agreement.
getting a porta john, but it would be hard to get down on.
Right.
I think they couldn't get the services in through there to serve them properly.
So Michelle, am I correct in understanding that you spoke with bus drivers who were having issues about being able to have access to restrooms?
Yes.
And do you think that's indicative of a wider problem for
I-
that areas?
Clearly, yes, that's what the strike was about. One of the major reasons of the strike, but which is why I asked the question. He didn't bring it up. It's not, don't get mad at him. But I'm just saying that it happened to be the person who specifically took me here for this meeting. And I definitely have spoken to a bunch of the South Bay from, Teamsters 683. It's always the challenge. They're the ones that are at the San Ysidro station. So I know about the San Ysidro station. I've heard that from multiple drivers, and I've also heard about the one on University and where the 15 intersects. Yeah, it's a constant issue about bathrooms. And yes, MTS does, no, I take that back. MTS is not providing the bathrooms. They have mandated that TransDev provide bathrooms, but they don't get cleaned. Women have had the bathrooms turned over on them. There's just women drivers. Those are actual stories that, people have said to me directly. So it's been a consistent issue, obviously, about bathrooms, and even this group itself has brought it up consistently. But I'm specifically this second thinking about anything, it seems to me, and I maybe there's something I'm not, unintended consequences, I don't know. But it seems to me that if your security people have bathrooms, and you really do need, I'm guessing you do provide bathrooms for those security details that are physically at one location, they obviously need access to a bathroom. And I know there are 10 locations that were in the report today. Then it would seem to me that minimum at those 10 locations, when they have access, that bus drivers should have access as well, that any MTS direct or indirect employee What I mean by direct or indirect is if they're working for Transdev. Thank you.
So, I just got confirmation that if security has access to a restroom in a location, the bus operators also have access.
All right.
Maybe they don't know that.
Could we make it an agenda item so we could follow up on it?
I believe that this falls out of the purview of the Public Safety and Security Committee, but we can make a recommendation.
Okay.
All right. Are there any other comments? So I wanted to, Victoria, I hear your concerns about homeless encampments and there are problems for us region-wide. We do not have adequate resources. It is unfortunate that we've chosen to criminalize people that do not have the funds or the resources to pay for rent anymore, because rent is driving our homeless crisis. And in fact, as an agency where I come from in my traditional work, we don't call it a homeless crisis anymore. We have a housing affordability crisis. I'm sure that this particular organization is being impacted in its ability to hire people, particularly in lower wage jobs. It has gotten to the point where it's moved up the food chain, and I now hear from biotech firms and doctors and high tech firms that they're not able to hire those types of people, which we traditionally would say were not the types of jobs where people would experience housing insecurity or be affected by housing costs. So we have an incumbent responsibility as a society, I feel like, to provide resources for people that can't afford housing. And when it's impacting, as Michelle said, seniors that are living, on fixed incomes and have been here for decades in retirement, and now they're spending their golden years in an accelerated death pattern on our streets. We have a problem with that. I really want to thank the agency and your leadership, Al, on this issue. You're right. You just don't, if somebody raises their hand today and says, I want to get off whatever I'm on, or I want to accept a shelter bed or a solution, I want a treatment, we don't have it. It doesn't matter whether it's behavioral health treatment services or addiction recovery services or even shelter beds. We just don't have enough in our system. And I think that, I asked you earlier privately, I would love to hear from this agency if you feel that you're seeing dispersal of the homeless population that was formerly in downtown throughout other parts of the region. I've heard it anecdotally. We don't have any clear information. I'll tell you one thing that I have heard from people that are doing outreach on our streets. It has become incredibly difficult to connect people, even people that have housing matches now. We can't find them. I know I've kind of gone on a little bit of a diatribe there, but this is my bailiwick and the work that I do as an individual. And I just want to share that knowledge with people here. We just simply don't have enough. We don't have enough housing. That's driving our homeless population increases. And that's why we're focusing on stemming the inflow using these rental subsidies, particularly for seniors, but it needs to be expanded greatly. But until we build more housing, we are not going to get ahead of this game. So, it's compassion. I mean, these are people that just don't have anywhere to live given their income capabilities. So, with that, are there, do we have any other items on our agenda?
No, but before you adjourn, I would like to let you know that Al Styler is going to be enjoying a well-deserved retirement. What? Beginning on Friday.
Oh, you can't go.
Friday afternoon. We'll get him for another 24 hours. But yeah, so we're very sad to hear he's leaving us. But he's set up a wonderful team, and Tim Curran will be our director going forward.
Well, I'd like to dedicate today's meeting both to Al and to Karen Wexwith. How do you pronounce her last name? Karen Wisnowski, both who've been very supportive of our efforts here for the last year and a half, 2 years. So today's meeting is thanks to you.
No, thank you. Anyone else on the committee want to speak on Al's behalf?
I agree. Thank you, Al, for everything that you've done. So Al actually came to one of our transportation meetings when we were still meeting online and answered a lot of tough questions. I know like, sometimes it's hard to be in the hot chair, but he was there, he was listening, he provided a lot of great resources and, just appreciation for being really approachable because I know that it's hard to deal with like safety and security. But I think that you really participate in a way that's very valuable. I'm from San Diego, so I appreciate whenever anyone is here to support and still see how each one of us are here in participants of this community. And I hope you have a great retirement.
Thank
We're close to the border, so, you can definitely take a vacation to Rosarito, Ensenada. And yeah, just appreciate all the work that you have done. And we look forward to working with the new chief in ways that we can collaborate with community members that are transit dependent riders. Thank
Round
you.
of applause for Al.
Thank you so much, but I've just been so blessed with, first of all, amazing leadership from Sharon. It all starts there. And if she doesn't give us the direction and the authority to do what we need to do, none of it happens. And then I was blessed with a wonderful team here. And, they were so open to change. They were so open to looking at new ways to solve problems. It was, Sharon gave me the keys to a Cadillac and it was just, don't crash it. That's what I got. And I've been very blessed to be here and I'm sad about leaving, but I know we're in great hands with Tim. And I hope he gets as much support as you've given me. Thank you.
Any,
I-
Michelle?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Oh, could you speak into the mic, Michelle?
Oh,
Yeah, I want all this recorded.
Okay.
About all nice thing.
No, that's fair. That's the part you want recorded. I just, one of the things that really feels to me, and maybe this was going on before, but I don't think so, was that when Al came in happened to be the time that there were these changes going on in MTS to take a back step and to looking at our security with compassion, humanity and compassion. And that really made a difference. I think part of it had to do with who was then on your public safety committee, et cetera, et cetera. But whatever the reasons, I am truly appreciative of that culture change. And I just hope that obviously that it will continue and we'll be here to hold it accountable to continuing. But I really, that is like such a difference. And this is like the best of who we are. And so I really do want to thank you for that. I'm also going to add something, most of you probably didn't deal with Karen that much, but I dealt with her every single time that we had a meeting because she would call me to make sure that I knew, et cetera, et cetera. She was always responsive, always on it. If she didn't get an answer, she'd call me back the next day. I know she's going on to another spot in MTS, and I know they're going to have the strength of who she is and how she works. And I'm appreciative of that. I know I will miss her, but I also know that there's a lot of other people that have that same sense of authenticity of wanting to make sure that people have access. So I do want to give her kudos for that. And I know she's not here, but best of luck moving on. And the same with Al.
Here. Well said.
Al, you and I have talked a long time. Sharon, you've seen me up here in the years prior to your arrival. We were struggling with a number of fare violations that were happening and the impact that was having in the community. It has been a pleasure to work with you. And I do believe that, Tim, you're going to make a wonderful replacement and continue the work that Al has done. We are going to miss you, Al. I wish you the best in your retirement and have a wonderful time. And with that, I will adjourn this meeting at 12. Oh, one more,
I do
Victor.
have one more
Victoria?
thing. I thought we were going to go number 5.
Another item?
Is there another item? I thought we were,
Well, it's community member communications and other business. So
Okay,
I
yes.
wanted to follow up on on Karen and Al announcement. I have a fairly extended network and somebody in my network by the name of Lori Bartz was on the trolley or bus when another individual passed out and was foaming at the mouth. She was alert enough to contact the bus or trolley driver who provided her with an EpiPen and she saved the man's life. And then they called 911 who came and transported him and et cetera. I was wondering is there any process for MTS to acknowledge a citizen who steps up and as a good Samaritan goes above and beyond to help another rider? And if we don't have that, I think it's an appropriate thing that we might consider putting in. Maybe a piece of paper, maybe a free bus pass, but in our life today, it's so much nicer when other people are willing to go above and beyond to save a life of another human, a complete stranger on a bus. And this man was literally foaming at the mouth. So she had some health and safety issues, and this woman's blind and crippled, and she still stepped up to the plate to help. So number one, thank you, Lori Bartz. Number two, what can we do for the Lori Bartzes of the ridership? Can we put that on an agenda item moving forward?
Well, this is the first I'm hearing about it, but if you want to submit something to the MTS customer, it's complaints and compliments. So if you wanted to submit information and if you have any contact information for her, we could contact.
But she's just a rider. She's not an MTS
Oh,
employee.
I understand that, but if
Yeah.
you want to send something into the system so that we can then have somebody from customer service.
Call her and send her a
call her.
chocolate or something.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Maybe just a thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thanks for leading
okay,
us all.
yeah,
Thanks for sharing.
well, and actually on to that, I forgot about this this item. I have noticed near transit stations or trolley tracks that I have issues consistently with cell phone service. And at one point, I seem to recall reading about the fact that the trolley system had cell sites on it that were specifically there for security purposes to capture data and information. I don't know if that's the case anymore. Is there some sort of technology reason other than just RF interference from trolleys that seems to be consistent?
Yeah, nothing that I'm aware of. I couldn't
Okay.
even guess what was causing your interference.
All right. Well, there we go. So with that, it is 12:50. We're going to recapture, or I'm sorry, 1:20. Excuse me. I don't know where that came from. 1:20. So we're going to recapture 40 minutes of our time. And with that, I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.